Hi you guys, welcome to our California farm. Today we are going to talk about how to make a fun natural fall wreath. And my goal is to use as many natural materials as possible, which means we're not gonna spend much money at all on buying materials to make this wreath. And let's start with the frame. Usually frames for the wreath are made either of plastic, metal, or vines. And so we live in Paso Robles, which is in the heart of the wine country. It would be a shame for me to go and buy a prepared wreath. So I made this one myself. I just went to a local winery early in spring when they just cut the vines and asked them if I can borrow several branches. And they said, well, sure, because one man's trash, the other man's treasure. Now, one thing that you need to remember if you're going to pick your branches, vine branches, for the wreath yourself, it's important that they are not too young, because otherwise they'll break, and not too old, because they'll be too stiff. They won't be that bendy. So you'll have to try several of them. So see how they bend, how flexible they are. So figure out the most flexible ones and long ones so that they're approximately the same size, and then you can tie them together in the wreath. I only use here 3 branches, and I don't need any more. That'll be totally fine for a simple fall wreath. And then I used the twine to tie it up, but of course it won't be like this. At the finished wreath there will be a bow and everything, but it's pretty easy to create your own frame. Now, other materials that we are going to be using is acorns. You can find acorns pretty much anywhere. They grow everywhere in the United States, but here we live in Paso Robles. The proper name of the place is El Paso de Robles, which translates the Pass of Oaks. There are a lot of oaks here. And I wanted to use something local in the wreath. So here's my oak piece. And also, I decided to use some eucalyptus branches. Eucalyptus grows in many places in California. We have a lot of it. I think about 4 or 5 trees here on the farm. So these are typical eucalyptus branches which would have seeds inside. And I have a couple smaller branches with leaves as well. Now, before you start doing your wreath, you need to have a little bit of preparation. If you're using natural materials, you need to wait a couple weeks after you collected them before you use them. For instance, if you look at acorns, once they start drying out, they're gonna fall out of their frame because they shrink. And they're supposed to fall out when they fall to the ground. That's their regeneration process, reproduction process. So once several of them fall out, you can use a glue gun to glue them back in. Not a big deal. And eucalyptus, as I already told you, will have seeds inside. So once you get them in the house, they'll open and you'll have small seeds like the size of salt grain everywhere. So you need to dry them out for a week, say in your garage. And then when all the seeds fall out, you can use the main stem in your wreath work. And then you'll need a couple tools to use in your work. I bought this really great set for working with florals. It cost me less than $12. I'll put the link to it in the description of the video, and it has several cool things inside. Well, first of all, it has pliers to work with wire. Then I have one set of green wire, and I also have 3 sets of different shades of floral tape. And you can use this set for any wreath making. It will be perfect for Easter, for Christmas, for anything. And under $12, it will serve you for a long time. It also has these stems. I'm not going to use them today, but just to let you know, it has these stems and you can make flowers from them using the tape and whatever floral arrangements you want to put on. One important thing to remember when you work with a wreath is that you need to use the longest parts of your decorations first, and then you're going to be using smaller and smaller size. So you take your wreath and you see how your branches fit along the wreath, and I'll go along the circumference and apply all the eucalyptus branches first before I do oak pieces. For my wreath making today, I decided to use the wire, and the pliers that are provided in the set are really good. They cut this wire pretty well. It's thin, it's very flexible, just perfect for wreath making. Starting from the top of the wreath, I'm attaching my eucalyptus branches with the wire. Just simply attaching them to the frame. Just like that. If you have a bigger piece, you'll use a longer piece of wire. For a smaller piece, you'll need less. And that's it. We are going to be attaching the second branch, and then the third and the fourth, so that the main stem is hidden under the decoration from the previous branch. So I'm kind of hiding it like this. So now I have 3 eucalyptus branches attached on each side of the wreath, and I left the gaps on purpose so that I can put my oak pieces in those gaps like this. And I will also use the wire to attach the oak pieces. When you're working with natural material, you need to use the natural bend of the branch in your wreath. If you can see, the branch here bends left, so I need to use it on this side of the wreath so that it flows naturally, it bends naturally. Now here is how my wreath looks like when I attached my eucalyptus and oak branches. I didn't go for symmetry, as you can see, because really in nature there is no symmetry. And that's why your wreath will look more natural. But when I finished with this part, I thought, well, I think I need a pop of color. And let me show you what I found. I found these cute felt pumpkins on Amazon. And I'm going to put a link to these pumpkins in the description of the video. I bought a set, 12 of them. It cost me about $10 or $12. They're handmade. I helped a small business like mine. And then they are very easy to work with. I love working with felt because it's very soft. It's easy to attach it to anything with thread, or you can glue it. I'm not a big fan of glue gun, let me tell you right away, because eventually glue disintegrates and your decorations may fall off. But I'm thinking to use just thread and needle to attach my pumpkins to the wreath. And so if you can see, imagine how they would add a pop of color all around the wreath. And let me show you why I like attaching felt pieces with a thread. Because they're movable. If you want, you can have your pumpkin facing this way, or you can move and have it face this way, whichever way. There's a thread going through the bottom of it, which attaches it to the wreath. But then, beyond that, it's very flexible. So look how this wreath looks now with all the little pumpkins. Aren't they adorable? So your last step in creating a fall wreath is making a bow to attach at the bottom of the wreath. Let me show you how to do that. There are millions of ways to make a beautiful bow. I'll just show you one simple one. Unfortunately, ribbons don't grow on trees, so I had to buy some ribbon. I just went to a dollar store and bought this spool of a ribbon that is 2.5 inches wide. It has wires on the side. This is the ribbon that I have. And so for this bow, you will need 3 pieces only. You will need 2 pieces of the same size, and the size can differ depending on how big your bow is going to be. And then 1 piece that is 1/3 longer than the other 2. So the first 2 will make loops, and the third one will make tails. So to make a loop, you just bend the ribbon in the middle, and you make sure that the end parts of the ribbon cross over, and you kind of smoosh it like this in your hand. And when you make the second bow like this, you're going to be connecting it with a pipe cleaner. And that's all you need. You don't need a thread, you don't need glue, you don't need anything else. So now that I have my 2 loops ready, I'll just stick them together. And once I do that, I'll use my pipe cleaner and just connect them so that they don't fall apart. And I will use the same pipe cleaner to connect this bow to the wreath. So like this, it's now connected, they're not gonna fall apart. You just make them pretty, and it's easy to do that if you have wire at the edges of your ribbon. So here you have the loops, and now, last part, you'll have to attach the tail. So to make the tail, I just wrapped around my 3rd piece of ribbon and tied it around my 2 loops. And that's it. And then in the end, you just want to make the end of the ribbon look pretty. So you can cut it in many ways. Here's just one way to do that. You fold it in 2 and you cut it through in the middle, and then you'll have a pretty end like this. And then you will do the same thing on the other side of the ribbon. Here you go. So you have your bow. Technically, you can have as many loops as you want. You can have 3 loops, you can have 4. Probably 4 would be the maximum. But I just had a very small piece of ribbon, so I had to go with 2. But the principle will be the same. You'll just tie the loops together first, and then you attach the tail. And so I used the pipe cleaner to attach the bow to the wreath, and it's all done. That's my pretty wreath. Very simple, very easy to do, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And if so, please ring a bell and don't forget to subscribe, because I'm preparing lots of interesting content for you in the future. Thank you. Bye.